The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on the break!
With Nick Eatman, Brian Broaddus, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Thursday, September 29th, 2022, Season 18, Episode number 40. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We're live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star, presented by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. And today we get you guys ready for Washington versus Dallas. The Commanders' defense versus the Cowboys' offense will be our focus, and we'll get into that here coming up shortly. We did have a couple updates I wanted to hit from Mike McCarthy's press conference that we'll get into here in a second. And then in our final segment, I have a little bit of a game for these guys. We're going to play something called Facts or Overreactions, and we're going to talk about this offense from that perspective. All right, so let's start first. Let's get some updates from Mike McCarthy. There were a couple players that he mentioned who might have a little different status this week. What are we hearing about Jaron Kearse and Dalton Schultz?
Sounds like both of them are going to practice today. Today's their most physical day of the week in practice, and so I think that sounds like pretty optimistic from McCarthy on both of those guys. I think Schultz was close last week, so he should be better this week. And then Kearse, he did make the trip to New York, and so not that he was ever going to play, but it's getting closer, especially when you're dealing with a sprained knee. Flying for 3 hours like that. I mean, if you didn't have to, I think that they wanted to get some workouts with him. I think he's gearing up to play as well this week.
Donovan Wilson has been a guy that I think for fans at least that are watching the game, they probably look at it and like, man, guy's been balling here these last couple games without Kearse. How much of a difference does Jaron Kearse make coming back, even though you've had pretty good play from Donovan Wilson?
I think a little bit of a surer tackler. I know that it's hard to say a guy had 11 tackles and he's not a sure tackler. He could add 15. Mm-hmm. There were several times. I think that with Wilson, there's a side of his game that reminds me very much of the 1980s NFL, where I'm going to try and knock you unconscious kind of a player. And Kearse is more of a thinking man's player. And there's a reason why he's, with the green dots and things, and Dan Quinn's talking about, man, I can't afford to lose this guy, but here I'm going to work around it. I think there's things that Kearse allows you to do that, whether it's playing him down, playing him back, there's that comfort that coaches like to have in their players. And he's like, okay, if I put him in that spot, I know he's not going to get blown up on the screen, or I know he's going to react to the tight end, or I know he's going to take that guy running the crossing route behind that they're trying to hit, in the waggle. So Wilson's he's a fun player to watch. Like you say, he'll knock you unconscious. But I think there's just a little bit more of a sure player when you start to talk about Kearse and what he brings to the game each week.
That's a good way to put it, because he is more thoughtful in his decision making as opposed to Wilson, which I love, but he's more reckless. And with that, it can be a good thing sometimes, but then it can also be that where you see certain plays where he's just so anxious to do the tackle and then misses it, or things like that. So it's like, it's not always a win-win situation, but it's good to have those different kinds of players sometimes too, because you do want a guy like Wilson that will just wreck the game and throw himself in there whenever he can. But at the same time, you do want smart players that are more thoughtful with their movement. So I like them both. I'm glad to have them both. Can't win every single time, so I'm just happy they're here.
Yeah,
and he's coming back soon.
Yeah, you make that point. It's an excellent point about that too, because like I say, when you talk about thoughtful, it is about, there is about lining up and not getting fooled and all that. And I think if it came down to that they had to make adjustments on the fly, I think Kearse is going to help you make adjustments on the fly, especially if somebody goes no huddle on you.
Yeah.
Especially if you get into a situation where, okay, it's a 2-minute or whatever, and you got a guy that's kind of, and sometimes you say this about safety. It's like, oh, he's a quarterback back there, and that means he can't do anything else. All he does is line everybody up.
But how many years does each guy have, in the
NFL
league?
experience?
Yeah.
Very similar, I want to say. I mean, Kurse is, I think, a little
they
bit
pretty
older.
close?
Yeah, I think Kurse he's played in Detroit, Minnesota, and then now here with the Cowboys the last couple of years. So I'm going to say he's a 4 or 5 year guy. And then I think Wilson's 3 years on this with us now.
I can't remember.
Has it only been 3 years?
I think so.
Wow.
I think so.
But I was wondering if it's like one of those things that it just comes down to having more experience. As a veteran, that you have more experience, you play smarter.
Well, it's funny because Kurse is a guy, he really didn't play until he got to the Cowboys. He wasn't like a defensive player. He was really a special teams guy is really what he was. And so, George Edwards had him at Minnesota. George is like, no, this guy can make plays for you. And, Dan Quinn has taken players that we thought, well, this guy can't play. And all of a sudden he's playing. And, I can honestly say I never saw Michael Parsons rushed the passer at Penn State. Dan Quinn and those guys said, hey, let's make this guy a rusher. And now, Nick's like, he's the best player in NFL defensively.
Yeah.
And he's not wrong.
Well, also about Donovan Wilson, we got to training camp, but towards the end of camp, you see all these rookie safeties, Marquise Bell and I'm missing somebody else, or McQuamu played well. And I asked the question to a couple of people, like, are we sure Donovan Wilson is going to make this team? Does he have to make this team? And I was told, yeah, because Dan Quinn told a group of sponsors or something. He talked up at the Cowboys club and he said, who's the player you're most excited about this year? He said Donovan Wilson. 100%.
This is his 4th year, yeah.
He said Donovan Wilson. This was like in the summer.
Kurse is 7, by the way. Yeah.
7th year for
That's
Kurse?
what our producer, Chris Beam, just told me. 7 years for Kurse.
Who's played more games? Wilson or
Probably Wilson. Or at least it'd be
Wilson's
close.
hurt some too.
Yeah.
But anyways, Dan Quinn had a role for
37
him.
games for Donovan Wilson.
He had a role for him. He just thought this guy could do something. So the good thing is this isn't quarterback. I mean, this is safety. So Kurse comes back, they're both going to play. They both played in week 1. I mean, Wilson got a pick off Brady playing, so they're all going to play. And Hooker, all those guys play in the packages because they have versatility to play some linebacker as well, especially when one of your linebackers is going to be rushing the passer.
By the way, 89 games for Kurse. Now, a lot of that probably was special teams.
Yeah, a lot of special
but he's
teams
played
play.
more games, obviously. And I just thought it was interesting that Amber and Brian were talking about him as a smart player, kind of really thinking about what he's doing. Nick, I remember I don't remember if it was this last game or the game before that, you and I were in the press box having a similar conversation about him, just from the standpoint of, man, I don't know that he always makes the right decision or makes the smart decision. And some of that is even kind of some of the penalties he's gotten, or those kind of things where you're like, man, I don't know if he gets if he really thinks about what he's doing before.
Those 3 guys, I mean, they're all similar to me. Randy Gregory, Sam Williams, and Donovan Wilson. They play very aggressive and reckless at times, and they can hit after the whistle. They get their motions in the game sometimes, and they punch back, and that's the one that gets flagged for and all that. But it's the same guy that's also, like Brian said, trying to knock your head off and playing physical and got them kind of scared to go over the middle or whatever. Quarterback.
Or scared to hit you out of bounds because they're scared that an enforcer's going to run it. Like those things matter too.
So
right?
yeah, you need those kind of players, and sometimes they could be good, sometimes they could be bad. But I mean, I think Donovan Wilson, he's a stat stuffer. I mean, he really is. You look at him; he's got pass deflections here, he's got interceptions, he's got forced fumbles. I mean, the ball finds him.
Ball gravitates
and
towards him.
he's a really good player, and this is his 4th year in the league, so this is his contract year for him. Yeah. And it'll be interesting next year to see kind of what they do at the safety position. They got a lot of depth there. We've never said that in a long time, right?
Yeah, no doubt. All right, we're going to move on to another topic I thought was kind of interesting. I'd love to get y'all's thoughts on it. Mike McCarthy was asked about just how do you make sure that your team doesn't end up in a weird situation, looking at the number of sacks that Washington gave up last year to Philadelphia, and not allowing them to start thinking, well, of course, we can get sacks, so this is a week that we're going to get crazy sacks. And he said you have to guard against false confidence. I'd be interested to think, do you think at this point that's something that this team should really be worried about? Obviously, they're 2-1. It's an early season. But the way these last 2 games have gone, I certainly am starting to get the impression that the outside world is looking at this team very differently than they were after week 1, especially after we found out Dak Prescott was going to be gone for a while, which can sometimes breed some of that false confidence. What are your thoughts there?
I totally believe in overconfidence, and you think it's going to be one way. my son's soccer team, they won 9-2 against this team, and then 10 days later played the same team, lost 3-1. I don't know.
It happened.
Thought they were going to just smash them. So I think there's something to do. So there is something about that. We've seen several times where you're like, this lineman's out, this lineman's out. They're starting a guy that was on the CFL last week, and then Phillip Rivers throws for 400 yards. I remember the game against the Chargers where
Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking one up there
the one in San Diego, yeah.
Where it's like, well, they've got one lineman that's ever played a game, and you're like, we'll see.
Yeah.
Let's see what these guys, and then
that's happened before against the Giants, Eli Manning.
Yeah.
It's a Sunday night game, and all 5 of their offensive linemen haven't played.
Right.
They're all off the practice squad. And then you look at the stat sheet, and Dallas has no sacks, no pressures. And you're going, oh, okay.
So I think there's something to be said for that, but there's also something to be said for, I guarantee you every time Alabama plays Western Carolina, Nick Saban says that to his team. Yeah. But then at the end of the day, they're just better than them, just by a mile. Mm-hmm. And so they just run them over. And I think that's what's going to happen here. I just think, okay, cool, Micah Parsons, he's still going to do his thing, and they're going to get 3-4 sacks.
Yeah, I think to me, it depends on what side of the ball you're talking about. Like, I'm good if the defense is overly confident, and because I feel like they do play better that way, being confident, aggressive, competitive. I love to see that. I don't love to see that when it's on the offense. And going even back to last year when they were winning games, managing to win games one after the other, there's something about that just makes you uneasy because you know that at any moment you're going to get slapped in the face. And they did. So to me, it's more on what side of the ball you're talking about. Even if you're playing well on offense, just be humble, keep playing, and just don't let it ever get to your head. So that's just how I see it. I just kind of split it in two. But I'm good if it's on defense.
Yeah, I think defensively, though, that you can watch that. You can watch the tape of the Commanders games, and Mike's right about it. He said it. He looked up; it was 24-0, and then he goes, "It didn't feel that way." But it's hard not to watch it and go, "Man, this quarterback is struggling. He is not seeing the field well. If we just do this and we do this," and you're talking about the confidence you have. Yeah, I think on offense, it's a totally different story. I think Cooper. I think the defense feels an extra responsibility knowing that Cooper Rush is their quarterback. I think they know that, we're not going to score a lot of points here. We're going to be okay. He's not going to turn it over and problems, but he goes, it's our job. It's our job to get the ball back and try and put him in favorable positions so he can have some success. So I think that's the responsibility. They play with some swagger and confidence and all that on the defense, and I think it's just fine because you can watch the Commanders tape and go, that quarterback doesn't have a chance. And he doesn't have a chance because his offensive line isn't good enough, and he makes mistakes with the ball himself. So that's the hope that you have that – it doesn't matter. They have great skill players there. They really, really do. The running backs, the tight end, the receivers. And I was on a podcast last night with some guys that cover the Commanders, and they're like, "Listen, this quarterback's got issues. He's got problems." And that's the thing of the Cowboys. Your defense is good enough to force him to continue to have problems.
Yep. All right, we're going to take our first break. We'll come back. We'll get into this Washington defense versus the Cowboys offense. We'll be back. DallasCowboys.com radio.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, singing, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
When you build, you start with the foundation. And home ownership is a foundation of a stable future. The Bank of America Community Home Ownership Commitment has helped over 34,000 people lay the groundwork so far, with up to $10,000 towards your down payment or 3% of the purchase price, whichever is less. The satisfaction of owning your own place can become a reality. Visit bankofamerica.com/homeowner to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America NA, Equal Housing Lender. Credit and collateral is subject to approval. Restrictions apply. This is not a commitment to lend.
Back to the break.
Book an appointment at your local Essilor experts. Find the perfect Essilor lens for you. See more, do more, Essilor.
Second segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. This segment brought to you by Blockchain.com. Brian, let's jump in. Washington defense versus Dallas offense. What's the best thing they do? What's the worst thing they do?
I think they're good at corner, actually, to be honest with you there. And, it's when you watch them play in the back end, the safety play, I think, has been pretty good for them. But, when you talk about Kendall Fuller, I like him a lot. I mean, he gets his hands on a lot of the passes. He's defensed 4 passes already this year. And then on the other side, Benjamin St. Juste is, a guy that, he's the same amount. They're a very aggressive secondary. And, they can cover you up. And that helps what does for them on the front end. When you look at their defensive line, it's a physical group. They've spent resources on first-round picks on defensive tackles, defensive ends, and it really kind of starts up front with Jonathan Allen and what he can do inside. Him, Daron Payne, both those guys are hard to block because they're so big, and so they can kind of control you a little bit. Zach Martin, Biotish, Farniak or Peters. I'd like a matchup better with Peters than there on some of these bigger defensive tackles. But they're missing their best pass rusher though. That's the thing about it is, and so with Chase being out, that hurts them a lot. But you're still going to get Montez Sweat is going to rush off the edge and
Cowboy killer.
Yeah,
he's been for 2 years. Yeah. He's made great plays against the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm. So that's Jamin Davis is a linebacker, and they've kind of figured out with him. They were trying to make him a middle linebacker or a Mike linebacker, and they're like, oh no, we need to put Holcomb inside at Mike linebacker, and then we'll put Davis on the outside, and he's got 3 sacks in this season, and so they've kind of figured out like, okay, they have 4 rushers. Who's going to be the 5th rusher? It's probably going to be Davis, the linebacker, number 52. So now setting protection, kind of figuring out, okay, got to secure the down guys, got to find Sweat. Okay, where's number 52 now? That's another one. But their secondary, like I said earlier, is good enough to cover on the back end, and it allows them to be able to get some pressures up front.
Yeah, I agree with the putting Jason Peters in there at guard and with with that left side having some strength there because those guys, it doesn't matter how good their team is on the other side of the ball. We've seen it last year, the first game up there in Washington. It should have been a blowout, but the defense just kind of keeps them in the game because it's just hard to run inside. Right. This is one where I do believe that, we saw it before. Even with Zeke and definitely with Pollard and maybe even Turpin, you have to go side to side on them because I don't think they can win just straight up, us versus you running right over them. I think they're going to have to run, laterally, but they do have some speed over there too.
They do have some speed. And I mentioned the corners, the ball coming off the edge or going to the edge. They've got corners that will tackle. St. Juste will tackle, and then also Fuller will tackle too. So that ball, if you're going to have to make somebody miss on that edge. And they're gonna if you get the pullers out there, they're gonna go low and not cut your blockers, but they're gonna interfere to make your blockers have to hesitate. And if you get blockers to hesitate, it gets the backs to hesitate, and then there comes the help from the inside. The safeties coming in the alley, the linebackers coming from inside, or these defensive linemen running to the ball. So, that's going to be something.
Where are you finding the Cowboys to be able to find more success?
I got it. Deep ball.
Yeah.
I was about to ask Chris Beam what Rush's career high for passing yards is. I bet he gets it in this game.
Really?
Career high passing yards. Definitely season high. I think he might have got over 300 against Minnesota. But
He did.
But I think this will be a season high and maybe even a career high. I think because when you have aggressive corners like that, and he's got a really nice deep ball. Yeah. His receivers didn't help him as much. I think if Tolbert could have made that catch, I think CD could have made one of them as well. I think that they connect on some of these deep balls and really push them back that way. That's where I think. I don't know what your answer is.
No, I like the thing that you're right about with Fuller and Sejus is they both are aggressive and like to attack, and so they like to be physical with you when the ball. Like they might get a lot of contested balls. So. Yeah, I feel like that you're absolutely right, though. If they set up a play, the ball that, and I know you probably all went back and watched it, the ball that CD dropped was a max protection thing. Mm-hmm. They kept Noah Brown in, they kept the tight ends in. They set it up knowing that they were going to run him all the way across the safety and spin him, and they did. They got exactly what they wanted. So I would, like Nick was talking about, I would say that you're going to see some shots down the field. You got to try and back these guys up a little bit so they don't just play on top of you and say, okay. Now the great thing about with it, Kellen Moore is calling plays, and then maybe it's an influence from Mike McCarthy. On 3rd and 12, you're thinking pass, and then he hits you with a run. All of a sudden, if you're Jack Del Rio, the defensive coordinator, you're like, whoa, wait a minute. If I come on all-out blitz and everybody gets trapped inside, I'm going to give up another big play. So that's the good thing about having a little bit of that balance where you're running when you're supposed to throw and throwing when you're supposed to run to set up each other. But the deep ball seems like a good opportunity for them because they'll set up plays to get. It'll be a one-man route, but they'll set it up so they have a chance, and hopefully it works.
Especially if we get Michael Gallup back this week, then. That's a nice duo right there. And Noah Brown, because I was wondering, I was forgetting for a moment, okay, imagine, let's say for whatever reason, which I am fully expecting Gallup to be able to play this game. But let's say if he wasn't or whatever, I was thinking, okay, wouldn't you rather try to keep setting up certain plays to target Noah Brown more than CeeDee Lamb? And I get he came back with a great play last week after he met that big mess up. So credit to him. But at the same time, I'm like, man, the way Noah Brown has been playing and the chemistry he has with Cooper Rush, I mean, it's to the point that I never thought I would be saying this. I'm like, man, I want to see more. I want to see more of him and what he's been doing.
This is very much like last year with Cedric Wilson. Yeah. This is what that is. And there was a spot for him as the third receiver. Even Gallup comes back. And if he comes back as a starter, I still think there's a good role for Noah Brown. I mean, that's why Washington is better than the Giants, but I think the Cowboys are way better than – I think they're going to be way better than they were last week. I mean, I think that Schultz is better than McEwen at tight end. I mean, I think that Nkwamu, it's going to be better to have Curse in there. I think it's going to be better to have Gallup than Jalen Tolbert. I mean, I think they are getting better. I think Peters will be a better Jason Peters than he was last week. So I think this team is going to be a better football team than they were 6 days ago.
Yeah, I think it'll come down to the offensive line, though, too. Can they handle the inside guys? And then how much the improved play of Steele at right tackle, will it be Sweat versus Steele on that thing? And how many times? Because I think the balance really does help Steele. Because I think he's a good run blocker. But, man, if it turns into, okay, I got to throw it 43 times in this game, then all of a sudden you're like, okay, how many times am I going to sit there and just let Sweat rush off the edge and then, maybe Steele get a little bit more exposed?
Yeah, I think there's been one player on offense that's really gone under the radar, which can be a good thing, especially when an offensive lineman. You don't hear a lot about either way. I think this game we're going to find out one way or another. We're going to be talking a lot more about Tyler Biadasz, one way or another, because if they play well and they run the ball and do some things and push them around, I think it's the time to start saying, all right, all those that were kind of, talking crap about him, in the last 2 years, need to start thinking about how good he's playing, because it's not just, it's also shotgun snaps too. I mean, you don't see low, high, you don't see all that stuff. Everything's been pretty steady. I think they're running the ball pretty well. To me, when you get 1st and goal in the 7 and you run into the end zone, that's a sign of a good, strong.
So who would you be putting at center? Let's say down the road.
No.
If, the rest of the line is playing well enough, and now the main issue or the area of improvement would be center.
Yeah.
Is there another guy currently that you think would be better?
No, and Farniok could maybe do it, maybe McGovern too, but that's not really what I was saying. I'm not saying replace. I'm just saying I think maybe it's time to start talking about this guy's not really a weak link.
Yeah.
And maybe he will be, but I know I've been overly critical about him, and I haven't really seen any mess ups. I've seen some pretty good blocks here and there. That's what I'm saying. This will be their best. Well, the Bucs were a good test, but this will be their next best test. And if he passes that, I think it
will be another one.
Yeah, but I'm saying I think it's about time to start saying, is Donald
Rams
good?
right? Yeah.
Good? Okay.
They got some tests for him coming up.
You know what? The next 3 weeks. We'll just wait for 3 weeks, and then we can talk about it.
After we get past that game, then we'll see where we think he
Got
is.
it. Because if you talk about it here at the Washington, I mean, he did something right for them to score. Let's not forget, they scored 56 points last time. The Washington football team, whatever they're called, comes in here. Okay, they're the Commanders.
They are the Commanders now.
Can't say it. Commanders. Last time that organization came down here, though, there was a 50 burger put on them. So we'll see. I mean, somebody was blocking.
Yeah. All right. Here's what we're going to do. Real quick, I did want to make mention of this. I was looking at some of their numbers. Their pass rush is a bit of an anomaly to me. See if you guys see the same thing. Right now, they're 6th in blitz percentage. So right now, they blitz 34% of the time. So they blitz a lot.
Yeah.
Now, they are 30th, tied for 30th in the league in the amount of hurries that they generate off of that. I'm looking at it, I'm like, if you're blitzing that much, I'm not saying you get sacks, but you ought to be in the quarterback's grill a lot. My question, Brian, is why do those two things not match up? Well, what's happening?
Yeah, to me, it's I mentioned about the whole thing. It's not having Chase Young. To me, that's the biggest problem that you run into, because if you have Young and then you have Sweat and then you bring Davis also as the pressure player, I think that's a little bit different look. And the thing about them is they don't have somebody else like Sweat that can rush. It has to be a linebacker. They're physical inside. So defensive tackles, unless you're Aaron Donald, like we were talking about earlier, they're not going to get a lot of sacks. That's about. They just don't have another. If they had 3 pressure players, I don't think they'd have to blitz as much. And I think that their pass rush would be better, because I think Chase Young's a really, really good player. And they miss that. People can say, okay, we'll block your tackles and we'll block that edge, and you're fine. You can blitz who you want.
Yeah.
But the sacks, it's just they don't have somebody opposite. The Cowboys at least have somebody opposite. When they bring pressure, they have somebody. Dallas could get pressure with 4 men, and it doesn't have to be Micah Parsons. They could get pressure with Lawrence, and then on the other side, whether that's Armstrong or Fowler or one of those guys. They don't have to bring. This team has to bring a 5th rusher to get pressure, because they can't any other way, because of I think it's a reflection of really not having Chase Young as a rusher.
Yep. All right, we're going to take our final break. We'll come back, got a little game. We'll play a little facts or overreactions as we talk about this offense. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
The season is finally here. For months, we've been gearing up to win. Now it's time for the team that performs on any field, United Ag and Turf. With John Deere Zero Turns for mowing, compact tractors for loading, mini excavators for digging, Gator utility vehicles for hauling, implements for grading, hay tools for baling. United Ag and Turf, for winning. The official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com for more.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
This sweet! Did you get to work on time?
Yeah, but I just realized it's Sunday.
Little Sweet says head on home. Dr. Pepper's on its way. So sweet, unique. Baby, there's nothing better. I bet you've probably done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper. Did you invest your nest egg in an NFT?
Yeah, and I don't even know what that is. It's a non-fungible token.
Everyone's done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper.
When you build, you start with the foundation. And home ownership is a foundation of a stable future. The Bank of America Community Homeownership Commitment has helped over 34,000 people lay the groundwork so far, with up to $10,000 towards your down payment or 3% of the purchase price, whichever is less. The satisfaction of owning your own place can become a reality. Visit bankofamerica.com/homeowner to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America NA, Equal Housing Lender. Credit and collateral is subject to approval. Restrictions apply. This is not a commitment to lend.
Back to the break.
This Sunday from 11:30 to 3:30 at the Ford Center, you can join former players. They'll be on the field for your kids at the Game Day Mini Camp presented by Invisalign. For more information and how to register your footballer for the camp, visit DallasCowboys.com/academy.
You bringing little man out there?
No, I will be at the game, Cowboys against the Commanders.
I'll give you the day off. You go and take little man out there, and y'all have some fun. How about that?
I think Aikman was the quarterback, and they were playing the Ravens in 2000. That's the last game I missed, and I don't plan on missing another one for a while.
Oh, you guys got to know, Nick is maniacal about this. Like, he is not going to miss a game ever.
I'm proud of that fact that during the COVID years, because it wasn't just you getting. I mean, it wasn't just yourself getting sick. It was you sat next to somebody who is sick, so you're out. I mean, like. You know, that was tough too.
Can I ask a personal question of everybody here? Did everybody get COVID in this
I have
building?
not had COVID.
I didn't either.
I have not had COVID.
I think it's me drinking blueberry shakes every morning. I think it's something.
I think it's me running. Like I honestly believe that through COVID, I was working out like a maniac, and I think that's what kept.
I tell you what, the minute you could, that's what I do. I was doing my walks and stuff, and if I felt like I was out of breath, that was my test.
Me too.
That was my test. I was like, okay, if I can't breathe, I think I'm getting COVID.
Right.
You know,
it was stupid, but
I'd always smell my own armpit, like, oh no, I can smell. You know, can you smell? Yeah, I mean,
food tastes good.
Yeah,
that's disgusting.
But no, it's funny that I
gotta see if I can smell.
Okay,
that was early on in the thing, but
okay.
But I got COVID, and the 10th day of the quarantine was the day we took off for camp. It actually was perfect timing if I'm going to do it. I mean, it was great.
Right before we went to camp.
Yeah.
Gave me a vacation that I was probably never going to take. So.
No, that's true.
I did. I tested myself every day. Not test like take the COVID test. I would do things to see like, okay, I'm going to run here, and if I can't breathe, my lungs. Okay, I can breathe. I'm okay. But I got to the point where I was taking like 17 different vitamins, like elderberry and all. I was literally like in 3 shifts of. I was reading about. That's what you do when you get old. You read, and you're like, oh, hey, look at this. You know, look,
ginger shots.
Yeah, you can take anything, and I overdid it. To this day, I still overdo it just because I'm fearful of getting sick. Yeah. And my mom and dad, real quick, my dad, 83 years old, neither one of them got it either. Dad was going to Walmart every day. You mask. You know, I'm like, Dad, you probably shouldn't. It's okay. You know, I'm like, no, Dad, you shouldn't.
No,
go
you
to
really
Walmart.
should sit down somewhere.
You shouldn't be going out. Yeah, you know, that's what happens. You get old, you just go.
I thought I was with you. I thought I was never going to get it because, I mean, there was a lot of times.
Well, you guys were protected here, though. You guys did a good job of kind of keeping everybody apart, huh?
Well, I thought for sure when I went to Arkansas, Texas, and we rushed the field, and I was in the car with 2 people that actually had it. I was like, well, I'm gonna have it, but no. So
my whole family had it at one point. Like I was taking care of them and walking around the house, no mask, all that stuff, and never got sick.
Mm-hmm.
It just. I don't know. For some reason, it hasn't come to me yet.
Yeah,
so.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. All right. I got a game for you guys. This is actually, I thought about this Sunday because I was like, man, there were so many things from this game that could be just these overreactions where you immediately jump to these conclusions. So I got these statements for you. 5 statements I got for you. And I want you guys to tell me whether you think, no, this is a legitimate fact, or This is we're way overreacting here.
This is funny how this is on the heels of the COVID stuff because we played that game for 2 years. Facts versus
Fact
overreaction.
Yeah. That's actually a good point. All right, so here we go. Here's the first one. Jason Peters will be your starting left guard. Facts or overreaction?
Fact.
I think it's fact.
Fact. Yeah, and fact, and I think it's fact to the point where that we might have to think about another position for McGovern, or McGovern becomes the fullback guy again, or McGovern does something else.
He was great in that role.
Yeah.
Fullback guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
he had a
special
good training
plays, get
camp,
him
by the
in
way.
there.
He had a good training camp.
Gonna score a touchdown. They got to get him. Got to get him a touchdown.
I really like what Nick did by going over and talking to Jason Peters and him telling Nick that I hope I'm not.
No, that's good.
But he said this about this was my preseason game. I could have played. This was my preseason game. I love that kind of attitude about him. I think he's excited about being on this team.
Yeah.
And I think he's excited about helping that left tackle.
He was in a good mood until I pissed him off.
What did you do?
I asked him about the Arkansas A&M game because he was there and. Yeah, he was kind of pissed about that too. Yeah. But no.
Well, then y'all commiserate together. He wasn't mad at you.
Yeah. But no. But
Funny game?
It was not.
Here we go. Here we go.
It was kind of funny. I mean, just the way it ended, it's like,
For real, you need to stop. You need to stop.
I'm about to do it again.
No, don't do it. Whatever you think about.
No. I'm about to get in there again this on Saturday. I'll be front row, Arkansas, Alabama.
Fandom, you don't choose fandom. Fandom chooses you. It is what it is.
Yeah, I hope I'm running onto the field again.
That's fact. That's fact.
There we go. All right, here's the next one. Cooper Rush is doing more with the offense than Dak.
Oh, you're getting spicy.
Let's get spicy. Nick said he wants him to be a starter for the next 3 years.
I want the guy to keep winning games, and if he keeps winning games, just keep him in. That's what I think. But is he doing more with the offense
than Dak?
Fact.
Yes, fact. Yeah.
I mean, because all we got to look at is that first game that he had. And is it fair? Not really, but that is just what it is right now. He is definitely doing more than what Dak did in that first game.
100%, because Tony Pollard is doing more in these last few games. Noah Brown is doing more these last few games. Tyler Smith is doing more. Kellen
Jason Peters,
whatever.
Kellen Moore.
The tight end. Schultz didn't even play last week, and they still were productive. So yeah, right now he's doing more with that than And I'm sure Dak's like, okay, well, I'd like to play the Giants and the Bengals too, but and he'll get the chance. But I'm saying, yeah, for right now, yeah, fact.
Fact.
All right. CeeDee Lamb became the number one receiver Monday night.
Overreaction. The way you worded it. But
okay.
Fact.
I mean,
I think that the minute Amari Cooper got on the plane to Cleveland, he became the number one receiver.
Right,
he just didn't act like it.
The
he just didn't play like it. But he was. They still targeting him.
Well, what I mean is he stepped into the role Monday night. You're doing that with the music and just
when
he ran over that dude,
fireworks,
getting to the one, he became the number one receiver.
When he was smiling after that drop, he became the number one receiver.
Yeah, he. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I mean, it was his moment there, and maybe so. But I mean, I think he has been the number one, and they need him to be the number one. He just kind of acted.
I'll even put it to you like this: do you think that game became the moment, the flash moment that we'll look back on and say, that's when we knew? Because what he's going to do after that, he is going to take over that role, and we will not question him being the number one.
What
receiver.
I liked about it is that he's a tall, slender guy. No one's gonna think, oh man, he's been in the gym. I mean, that's not his game. But he was like, well, I can't go left because that's out of bounds. I can't. I'm just gonna run you over. I mean, you're probably bigger than me, but I'm just gonna put my face mask on your face mask and see what happens. And I'm kind of pissed off too. I just think that was a moment of like, you know what? I'm gonna do what I can to run you over, and I like that part of him because he doesn't look like a physical player, but he can be, and that was good to see that.
I will say this: I don't want to overreact anymore when he starts dropping balls again. Because
you said you won't overreact.
I felt like I did overreact. I didn't go on Twitter. I'm watching the game. I'm like, man, bro, you've got to make these plays.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot let this quarterback down. I mean, he's fighting his ass off. This team's fighting their ass off to move this ball. You've got to catch those. So my overreaction was initial, and then that drive, I'm like, okay, just settle in. You'll be fine. Settle in. And so I went from overreaction to I feel like, okay, that's what you're supposed to be.
That's how you drive.
To me, it's not a fact. I mean, it is a fact that he's the number one because that's what his role is. But I just feel that
I should have said a number one. Yeah, he's the number one on this team. Is he what you need from a number one? I should have said it like that.
It's just,
Jury's
it's
still
hard to
out,
say
man.
because at the same time, what he did, for example, when he caught that ball, was it impressive? Yeah, exciting, but it's something that I've seen him do before. So it's not like, oh, you surprised me. This wasn't like, oh my God, Jalen Tolbert just made that. Like, you know the talent that CeeDee Lamb has.
Yeah.
So you know what to expect. You know what he can do. So now, so it's not like, oh yeah, definitely number one. Well, no, I'm like.
Yeah, but let's be clear. Ability has never been the problem with CeeDee Lamb here at the Cowboys. He's made plays since, you can go back to last year, he made some plays. Consistency has been his issue.
That's
Exactly.
the issue. And to me, and I was very critical of Kellen Moore, like, please use him. Like, I watch Oklahoma film and I'm watching how they were using him at Oklahoma, and I'm thinking, come on, Kellen Moore, go back and watch that tape. And then what does Kellen Moore do? He draws up a play with max protection, sends him all the way across the field, and he drops the ball, and I'm like going, that's on you, bro. That ain't on Kellen Moore anymore. I'm not blaming Kellen Moore for that because he set you up with a touchdown is what he did.
Watch this game tonight because Cincinnati against Miami. If you have Amazon Prime or whatever, where the game is. But I'm just saying, you're talking about some premier receivers in the league. Waddle and Hill and Chase and I'm not in that order, but Higgins and Boyd. And those guys are going to get the ball, and this is a game of this is probably one of the best games of just pure talent wide receivers. Not to mention Cedric Wilson, who I don't know if he's playing. I saw he may not play, but still, those guys are going to get the ball tonight, and we're going to see how they scheme it for them. But going back to CeeDee Lamb, all those that play on that one drive, fourth down catch, the one where he ran over the guy, then the touchdown. My favorite play of the drive, catches a touchdown, runs over a lady on the sideline. Still helps her up. Like, if they're coming over to celebrate, he's like, oh, hold up, helps her up. I was making sure it wasn't one of our team, but it was, he runs.
Susie Colbert's laying on her,
who was on our team way back in the day.
All right, I do have one other question for you guys. Tony Pollard is the best running back on this team.
It's an overreaction.
I'm going to say that's
he's working.
No. You said overreaction.
I said overreaction. I don't think he's the best running back on the team. I think he's the fastest running back on the team.
I think in the way that we play football nowadays in space, he's the best running back. Yes, in space.
No, I mean that's true. That is true. Mm-hmm. But I think
if you said the position of running back, he's probably not.
I would say overreacting because he is what he is. Yeah. I still think he's what he is because of Zeke. And the moment you take Zeke away and give him more, I just feel that he'll become too much.
Are we sure about that? Because there have been games when Zeke didn't play, and he's had some pretty good games,
He has. But then what does that look like week to week? Because he did that a few years ago. And to me, it's like, okay, what does it look once you do it every week? Can he do it every week?
For 17 games.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so that's the point. It's like, we've seen it, but he does exactly what you would want your second running back to do for you. And that's not a bad thing. Like, it's okay. That's great to have. So now he compliments Zeke.
Yeah.
But fact is they put him in the 4-minute offense to finish that game. They treated him like a real running back.
They did.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, we talk a lot on this show about
a lot of trash,
can he run up the middle? He was running up the middle quite a bit and doing it effectively. And I was thinking during that game, like, that narrative needs to go away because he definitely is a guy that can run up the middle. He can take the hard runs and he can do something with them. So I don't think that's a narrative that necessarily fits.
Well, but to be the lead running back, especially in this offense, you're going to need that. You're going to have 20 collisions in the game. 20. 15 of them are probably going to be you running up the middle and getting hit by multiple guys. There's going to be 5 where there's a blitzing linebacker where you have to put him. You don't have to put him on his back, but you got to make sure
you got to take on that hit. Yeah,
and Zeke he has some beef in him. Like, he's buff, so he can take those.
Yeah, I mean,
Pollard, what about him? Why are you?
Well,
Did I say
no, it's
something
true.
bad?
No, it's true. It's absolutely true.
I'm like, did I
Brian's over there losing it.
Let me ask you this.
Did I say something? Oh my God.
No, you were talking about the buff. I mean,
Okay,
yeah,
I
let's
don't
go.
know if I said something.
No,
weird.
So-
Fine. I was proud of what you said. You described it perfectly.
Let me ask you these scenarios in a game against a good defense. I guess the Eagles. The Eagles are a good defense. I mean, coming up.
Yeah.
Well, even this team's a good defense. I mean, would you rather have Zeke and Rico Dowdle as your two running backs, or would you rather have Pollard and Rico Dowdle as your two running backs? Because that might give you kind of the answer. Of
See,
what
that's also part of the issue here is I think there was a time maybe last year when that would have been a non-starter for me. Absolutely, I'm taking Zeke. This year, I'm not so sure I agree with that anymore. And the reason why is because I just look at how both of them run. And to me, Pollard is a guy. It used to be a time when you give Zeke the ball and you were like 4 or 5 yards, even if he gets hit at 2,
It's going
he's gonna
forward,
get 4.
falling forward.
Yeah, that isn't necessarily always the case anymore. And I don't think the big play potential exists anymore for Zeke. I haven't seen it enough to think it exists. With Pollard, I'm like, I can take the 2, the 3, because I know there's a chance.
46-yard run.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, I look at it and I am kind of starting to think Pollard is your better back. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't be a 1A and 1B.
Yeah.
And maybe Zeke is now the second best, not by a lot, but maybe the second best running back on your team. I just think you get a little more juice from Pollard, and to me, that's valuable.
3rd and 1, he's converted 100% of his carries.
Pollard.
No, Zeke.
Zeke. 3rd and 1.
Yeah, he's only running back in the NFL. 3rd and 1, he's converted them all. I'll tell you where Zeke can get back into everybody's good graces. They need to get him catching the ball in the flat and stuff like that. Remember how the screen game used to be really good? They haven't really thrown the ball to these backs yet. And it seems like when they do, it's a big cluster. It's like us trying to leave the airport terminal thing, when we're all trying to, landing at 4 in the morning, we're all trying to get our cars out of there. That's what it looks like when they try and set up those screens.
I was last. This week. I promise you that.
It's crazy. It's like, remember when it's 4 in the morning, you're trying to get your car out, and you're going to just run into Dr. Cooper.
Just did it last weekend.
Didn't carry his wave and just drive on, kind of a thing. But they need to get these running backs to catch the football a little bit better. I mean, I think that's something they're running well right now. They're being physical, but they need to get these going in the passing game a little bit.
All right, we appreciate you guys joining us back tomorrow. We're going to get some fan questions, so you guys can start hitting me up on Twitter. We'll get questions there. You guys will be able to call us, but we'll have a good fan show for you guys tomorrow. Get you ready for Cowboys versus Commanders. Till then, for Nick Eatman, Brian Broaddus, Amber Garcia, I am Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?